Welcome to Shareholder Q&A, a production of Gorecom, in which we ask shareholders of companies to post their questions, have them answered by, of course, the CEO. With us today, he doesn't need an introduction, Steve McCauley, CEO of Empower Clinics, trades on the CSE under CBDT, and for our friends in the US, EPWCF, and for our friends in Europe on Frankfurt under 8EC. Steve, before we get into the questions, first of all, welcome. How are you? Let me say that first of all.
Good, thank you, George. Doing well. Appreciate being on the show again. I think we've got a lot of good updates and hopefully a lot of good questions coming in from the Empower Army.
Yep. We got a bunch. Before we get to that, you put out some pretty impressive numbers, like just two of the most impressive numbers you've come out with. You received the order, and I'm reading the headline, for up to 5,000 COVID-19 tests from 2 film and television productions. Expect to be in excess of $750,000. Also, Q1 2021 patient results, year-over-year growth, 460%. Patient count for March increased by 388%. So without getting to the details of those, because there are questions about those down below, what should that be telling shareholders right now about where Empower is at?
Well, I think everybody should have quiet confidence about where things are. Oftentimes when you're a public company the way that we are, and there's sort of a voracious appetite for news and big news. But the reality is that we can't come out with earth-shattering press releases multiple times per week. It just doesn't work that way. But what everybody should realize is that myself, the entire team, our marketing folks, our business development people, everybody behind the scenes are working really hard, working really smart, and we're working on a lot of interesting transactions, and that can range from new opportunities like bids for business, new contracts and relationships, to mergers and acquisitions, and like our deal pipeline, which obviously people don't get privileged to see until a deal gets done. But I can tell you our deal pipeline has never been as large as it is right now.
Okay.
We've had the good fortune with kind of the notoriety that we're getting. We're getting companies approaching us. It's not us searching for deals. It's companies and entrepreneurs approaching us to say, could we talk about becoming part of the Empower organization? And basically, can you please buy us? And so,
and what do you think is driving that, Steve? Is it they see you as a leader, they see how Empower's grown, and they just want to be part of that ecosystem, where they look for a quick cash out and they think they can take Steve for a big deal or something? What's driving most of that, you think?
So I think that it really is happening because one is just the visibility, of our stock, and therefore there's a lot more eyes on us. I'm out in front, talking often. We shoot a lot of videos. We do a lot of interviews. But I think the other main thing that drives it is the new team members. So if you take, Dr. Jordan and Dr. Aviv in Toronto, well, because of the acquisition, they are getting a lot of local notoriety within their network. And what that has done is it's allowed them to open up doors and local, again, whether it's healthcare, medical clinics and physicians, or it's med tech, or it's, platforms or additional new, medical devices or medical products that could be accretive. Those opportunities are coming their way. And then, of course, they escalate that to me, and we start to figure out whether it's an appropriate target for us or not. Same thing happens with, Yoshi Tyler at Kai Medical. She's getting more notoriety as a result of the acquisition of Kai and all the publicity that we're putting behind them. So she's getting opportunities that come her way. We're also working with, really, I'll call them sort of lobbyists. We work very closely with the Honorable Sheila Copps. We've got a lobbyist that we've brought on in the US who's been in Washington, D.C. for almost 30 years to help open up doors, particularly to access a lot of the Biden administration funding that's coming to the market in the US. So it's not one action that we're taking, it's a multitude of actions all working in concert to help drive awareness and identify opportunities to get us to have, rapid incremental growth beyond our organic growth.
Your pillars, your pillars of growth, your pillars of the company, investors know them as Kai Labs, obviously, the clinics, both in the US and Canada, uh, Kai tests, right?
Yeah.
That's part of it. And even your relationships with the likes of Rexall and some other partnerships you've got. Is there any particular area of those that's doing better than others in terms of the pipeline that's building? Or would it be fair to say that all of them are, I don't want to say redlining, but really advanced stages in their pipelines, that they're all equally contributing or going to be contributing to the growth of the company?
Yeah, so I think it really is, the two main pillars being our health centers and our plan to open a multitude of health centers both in Canada and we'll turn our sights back to the U.S. market fairly soon, and then science and R&D through Kai Medical Laboratories, and then our whole testing platform and our direct-to-consumer platform through KaiTest.com holds such promise in the markets that we serve. So both of them are performing very well, and the pipeline of growth on both pillars is very solid. The acquisitions that are coming that can sort of fill in between those, which is really accelerating the rate of opening of health clinics by acquiring clinic groups. So we have the deepest pipeline of clinic group acquisitions that I've ever had. And I mean, it's a deep pipeline. Again, all about speed, speed to growth, speed to top line, speed to EBITDA, and really leveraging the currency of the public company. The other layer for us that becomes a pillar is really bolstering all of what we have with healthcare technology. And whether that's going down the path of developing telemedicine platforms ourselves, or it's acquiring, or both, whether it's looking at accretive healthcare medical devices or medical products that could be delivered through KaiTest.com to support our desire to have a whole myriad of at-home testing products offered through that platform. Whether it's looking at some of the healthcare AI that's coming along and how it ties into wearables, that's going to become a very interesting area in really speeding up I'll call it the healthcare supply chain, putting more control over an individual's health and health outcomes in the hands of the individuals, giving our physicians greater access to information about their patients even before they come in, so that they're monitoring and the delivery of care that they provide, whether it's in person in clinic or it's virtual or it's remote, that they become more effective at their role as a healthcare professional. So we're considering all of those aspects, but fundamentally, we have a very deep pipeline of opportunities, and I'm expecting to have a very interesting second quarter with some of these announcements to set us up really nicely for a very strong second half of 2021.
When you just went through that last part there, everyone's going to pick out something different. What I picked out is the fact that it sounds like you are already planning what Empower is going to be like 2-3 years from now, because you're talking about things like technology, AI, wearables. Because naturally, if you're going to have all these clinics, you're going to have George and Mary and Bob and all these patients, and as opposed to the hey George, I haven't seen you in 6 months, how you feeling? You're planning for an Empower clinic ecosystem that stretches right to my home. So I may be your patient, but you're not just seeing me when I come in every 6 or 12 months. You know what I'm doing every minute. That gives me a great deal of comfort, but maybe you can talk a little bit to that your mind is already on, hey, where Empower is going to be because that's 24-month stuff. That isn't this quarter stuff. Because the acquisitions lead to the wearables, lead to this massive ecosystem, and that takes a little bit of time, but that's the power.
Well, think of it as building blocks. So we are, we're building a basis of strength on which we can grow and we can perform and be deserving of being, trading on a larger market than where we sit today. So, but you can't get there without building a very solid foundation. And we've been fortunate, particularly over the last sort of 6 to 9 months, to really see that foundation develop, to give us this realistic chance and the realistic path of very substantial growth and building tremendous shareholder value. I think we're all getting glimpses of it now that it's possible. And markets go up, markets go down. There's many factors that are out of our control, but the things that we can control are the work that we do each and every day to build a great company. That's within our control. And I think if we continue to execute the way that we do, the stock price itself will naturally evolve over time. And you see it historically with great companies and iconic companies that are out there.
Absolutely.
As they're developing, they've got highs, they've got drops, they've got ups, they've got downs. But the one thing that you see in leadership is consistency. Get up every day, work the strategy, exercise it, work it hard, and to the extent possible, always find like-minded leaders, team members, and build a great leadership layer, an executive layer that fundamentally everybody's on the same page and excited and motivated for what they're doing. I can tell you that the acquisition discussions, one of the real benefits of these acquisitions coming on and doing it this way is the talent that comes with it, the great minds and experience, because organizational development takes a lot of effort. It's hard to get the right people, great people, and keep everybody, again, churning on the same page. But I think we're actually managing to do a pretty good job of that. And again, to the extent that these pending announcements are going to come through, the audience are going to start to see there's some tremendous quality people that are coming with these acquisitions.
Because I built them in the first place, right? Because
that's
George
exactly.
of GeorgeCom built GeorgeCom to get to a certain point that now makes it acquisition worthy. But you're bringing his talent plus his team's talent as well. That's a great point. I didn't
and keep in mind, here's something that's very important to me in this process. And I'm very structured in the way that we kind of go through the journey of acquisition. It's a very precise, kind of an approach to it. It works. It works for me. It works for our other team members, and I think it works for the potential, acquirees that we're talking to. But it's very important. Just to understand, how we go about this. And, in talking to, people, the principals that we're talking to now, in each and every case, they want to be part of this journey going forward. We're not looking for situations where we want to buy an asset and the principals are going to, go off in the sunset. That's not a target that we're looking for at this stage in our evolution. We really want the talent to come along, and we just want to give them the resources and the working capital to do more with what they have, and give them the management layer and maybe some of the marketing or the branding, capabilities that perhaps they haven't, had the resources to do, or just the wherewithal to do in the, previously.
And by the way, when we talk about resources, I don't know what your exact balance, your bank balance is today, but the last press release was over time, you brought him over $12 million just from warrants.
Yeah, correct. Correct.
You're not just talking a big game and thinking, well, George, we like to make acquisitions and we like to R&D. You actually have the money to do what you need to do.
Yeah, we absolutely have the currency to do it, and we have the currency to do bigger deals than we ever did before. And we managed to do transactions with not a lot of balance sheet in some of these prior deals. So how we approach transactions now and the scale of the transactions that we're talking about are substantially different. So that's the benefit of, getting the price movement. It's the benefit of increased valuation and awareness. It's the benefit of having liquidity in our stock. And it's the benefit of having that cash that we can now deploy. Now, I'm very careful with our cash.
Yeah, you're not tossing
Right?
around.
We're not frivolous in our approach. And when something comes our way that, I feel is too big for where we sit today, I acknowledge that quickly and we move on. If we get into sort of preliminary negotiations with a target, if that target for whatever reason are unrealistic in their preliminary valuations, I get off that transaction right away because we're wasting time. And so again, it goes back to we have to identify potential targets that really fit with what our culture is and what we're building as an organization. And I think we're doing a nice job of that.
Right. Well, and that's great to hear. Clearly that behind the scenes, the amount of biz dev pipeline building that's taking place, it would probably exceed the expectations of 90% of investors if they knew just how big the pipeline and the magnitude of things you're working on.
Yeah, I think that really is true, and it is the message that I want people to hear from me, and is we just came off. It's a funny time of year when you get in late March and April. We're deep into our audit. You come off spring break. We come off the Easter and the high holidays for the Jewish community, and it's just a little bit of a funny time. It's almost like there's a lull, but there hasn't been a lull in the development of our pipeline. So again, behind the scenes, we are churning very hard. So I want everybody to really be comfortable and be confident that we are here for our shareholders. And it's not hype. We are. I think we've built a reputation for execution, and we will continue to deliver and continue to execute.
Well, these last couple of headlines show that, right?
Those are real. These things happen. Those metrics are correct. That's the impact of acquisitions on year over year, access to patients. In that particular sense, and we know that our patient metrics are a leading indicator for future revenues. So those metrics I can talk about. We can't give guidance on revenues, but we certainly can talk about some of our key KPIs and how we're performing. And so I feel very good about our progress so far, and I hope that everybody will remain confident and remain with us. I think we've got a pretty big runway ahead.
Absolutely. And with that, I think maybe we should get to some of the questions here, get to some of the specifics. In no particular order, okay? My guys tried to organize them quickly beforehand to have them somewhat grouped, but we'll get through these, no problem. First one, Mike Banning. Kudos on the good work so far. I think he's talking to me, Steve, not you. I think he's talking to me. His first question, I like this, biggie. Any intention of uplisting from the CSC to the TSX?
Well, I think the short answer is that we intend to uplist when it's appropriate. Whether that appropriate market is a market like the TSX or it's a market like NASDAQ, we absolutely have a desire to uplist. Visibility is very important. So as you get to bigger markets and your valuations increase, you start to access institutional investment as opposed to retail investment. So our desire is to do that. The recent announcement of our DTC eligibility coming through, the reason that you do that is to open up access to the 10 times larger investor base of the United States. And it should over time drive liquidity in our US markets and back into our Canadian markets. So, we absolutely, if we can, when we can, we would look to, move to a bigger market.
What would you place as the probability of having 30 clinics? And that the reason 30 is you've used that in the acquisition where your goals have 30 clinics. What would you place as the probability of having 30 clinics open by end of year 2021?
I think the probability is high. Again, based on our pipeline that we just talked about a little bit there, based on the partner clinics that we're working on. Again, our process here is we won't announce new clinics or locations that are awarded to us from our pharmacy partners until we've got the lease agreements on them, right? And so again,
But right now, technically speaking, you could have a number of them that have been kind of awarded to you, but you're waiting for the lease agreements first.
Yeah, George, that's correct. So we have again, a very disciplined process that we follow. So once lease agreements are negotiated, then we'll go ahead and announce the particular address of those locations. But behind the scenes, we're working on those. That's part of our pipeline. Our acquisition pipeline, again, is very deep. So kind of circling back to the question, I think as I sit today, beginning of the second quarter, we're bullish on that. We're quite optimistic that we'll be able to hit a number like that by year end.
All right, that's great. That's a great number because we've seen the math before.
Yeah.
So we might as well say we've seen the math before then in previous press releases where you've said you expect to generate between 2.6 and $3.2 million or something like that in annual revenue per clinic. So you could potentially be on a run rate by then of 70 to $95 million or so.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will be in this kind of phase all the time. So we're in various stages of negotiating transactions or clinic openings, doing leases, doing tenants improvements as required, doing ribbon cutting ceremonies to open, to steady state quarter over quarter performance. So we'll always be in this phase for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, a couple of years, 2-3 years at least.
Well, no, I think it's just an ongoing. You don't get to a point where we say, oh, hey, we're going to stop now, right? I don't know what the horizon is of that, but I don't see it slowing down for many years.
Mike goes on to ask, and I know you're loath and you're loath to talk about specific partnerships, and so feel free to not have to answer it freely. But he asks, how involved is Rexall in your day-to-day work on the clinics?
So we're involved with them, virtually every day in one form or another. Myself personally, my relationship is more with the executive and the president. But Dr. Jordan and Dr. Aviv work with the facility team every day. So they're in the midst of identifying locations, dealing with recruitment for particular locations based on the priority cities that are being identified. We're in the midst of negotiating leases right now. And so that takes daily, regular, ongoing work. Those guys have a very great working relationship with the facility team. And so we continue to work with them on that front. We continue to work with them on Chi tests, our saliva test kit, and what potential opportunity we may have there for distribution partnerships. So at this stage, it's early days in the working relationship, but I feel very good about how it's going.
Yeah, that's great to hear that they're working together almost daily, it sounds like. Yeah. So this is a real serious initiative where both sides are saying, let's go, let's look at this, let's look at that. That's fantastic, because sometimes you do see that happen, right, Steve? Empower Clinics and George Calm enter into this big, wonderful partnership, and then nobody's really driving the bus. And then 3 months later, everyone's saying, hey, whatever happened to that partnership with Empower?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I agree. This is not a short-term affair. This is a long-term business relationship that develops over time. It's a working relationship that we have, both parties are equally motivated to get this done. Brands like like a Rexall, they're very concerned about their customers in the neighborhoods that they serve. It's so important to them, and it's a philosophy that's to be admired. And so for us to be able to help support their desires to serve their neighborhoods, it matches kind of our principles and what we want to stand for. So, we're very committed to this, and we're investing time, we're investing money, but I know the outcomes are going to be very good, and even the new physicians that we've signed up already, they're just so excited to be part of this journey as well. It's a big piece of it, and one of our strengths in all of this is our ability to recruit high quality medical doctors and practitioners.
Last question. How would you characterize the demand response / interest you have received on kitest.com?
So the interest is very high. We'll have a really nice update here very shortly with the full e-commerce launch. So behind the scenes, we got all of the go-aheads from Shopify that we had to, the hoops we had to jump through on legal and compliance. All the e-commerce plugins have been activated, and Snow Agency, our partner for e-commerce and e-commerce marketing and monetization, are setting up now the ad campaigns. So we will be turning on the full e-commerce power and actually activating the spend to start to generate customer acquisition. So we're actually really excited about how that's going, but we'll make sure to let everybody know exactly when that's fully active for new, fresh traffic.
Growth Investor 123 asked a question about Rexall. We've kind of addressed that, so we don't need to go any further. Have you started looking for clinic acquisitions outside of Ontario? I like that question.
So right now, our big pipeline is really in Ontario at this point in time. We will definitely be turning our attentions west. We've started some very interesting conversations in the province of Quebec as well. It's obviously a second largest population center in the country, so some very big opportunities there. So we don't have unlimited bandwidth, I guess we'll put it that way. So it's a natural extension for us because we have labor, manpower, and leadership on the ground in the province of Ontario. So we need to leverage that first.
Yeah,
and it's such a fragmented market in healthcare. There are so many, really wonderful health groups that could be appropriate, targets for us. And that's why we've been able to build, such a deep pipeline at this stage. So we just have to, keep working the ones that we can, get the deals done where we can, announce them, and keep in that rhythm.
It sounds like the pipeline in Ontario is already so strong that
it is.
You just want to focus on that before you let it get too out of, even the great Steve McCauley has limits.
Well, of course we do.
Capacity.
We've got capacity, and we sometimes you can spread yourself too thin and not really be efficient. So we have to be prudent with our resources, and it's practical to focus in the big Ontario market right now, and then sort of see it expand out that way. But we definitely have our eye on national expansion. We're not going to keep this as a regional play. There's too much opportunity in different provinces for us.
Would it be wise, and I think maybe they may need a clarification on this, but would it be wise to have a distribution center in Canada for at-home test kits so consumers would receive them faster before sending back to Kai Lab? So I think there might be some confusion there because the distribution center wouldn't be able to do the lab work, right?
No,
it has to go back to Kai Labs, right?
Yeah, at this stage it does. So we are already working on a distribution hub in Canada for Canadians. We're already doing it.
Right.
We've already designed a fully bilingual box for Canada.
That says a lot.
Adding UPC codes. We're in dialogue with opportunities, in Quebec. We're in dialogue with national, big national brands, and in Canada we've got bilingual requirements. So we've literally, already done that work, and we've got fulfillment partners that we're working through proposals with in Canada right now for that very thing. Because to the question, the question is accurate. It's right on. It does not make
great
sense
question. I misread that though. That's a great question.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense for us to, ship medical devices down to Florida for packaging, only to have them, shipped back up to Canada. The medical device itself is actually a Canadian manufactured device. So our long-term strategy, of course, is to, order and fulfill in Canada. And to the extent that we can do lab processing in Canada, then, we'll pursue that as well.
All right. So great question, Growth Investor 123.
Yeah.
Craig Scott, 1500. When can we expect to hear more updates about additional at-home tests? You've mentioned on a number of occasions, quote, men's and women's health. I'm not sure what that means, if that's a magazine reference or something, but
no, these are categories of tests. So there are a number of opportunities for us to leverage all the e-commerce platform build that we've done, starting with the Kai saliva test. So there are categories of tests, whether they're blood-based tests, hormone tests, whatever the case may be, toxicology, diet, but there's categories such as men's health, women's health, other disease states that, again, you can bring the opportunity for us consumers to take more control over our own personal health outcomes by literally taking these tests at home, getting a result, and then making a determination of how do you engage your healthcare professional at that time, if at all. So product development takes time. So, we can't just snap our fingers and have a medical device or a medical test simply, show up in market. It does take time. So we'll see a lot more activity coming later in this quarter, and then we'll see product announcements and launches third quarter, fourth quarter, 2022 and beyond. But we fully intend this platform of Kai tests to be a really outstanding direct-to-consumer, healthcare platform.
When can we expect to hear more about recent monthly test volumes being processed by Kai Labs? Possibly an update to the run rate?
We try to update that, sort of as we, obviously quarterly is our key way that we do it. And it's a KPI that we kind of take a look at the end of each month. So we certainly can provide, some future updates coming. Certainly the actual details will be part of our year-end filing and our fourth quarter filing, and then our first quarter filings are due at the end of May. So, there's not that much time before those, actual published results will be out.
Yeah, and right now you are buried in the audit, right? I mean,
oh yeah.
So for now, some of these kind of numbers are on the back burner while you guys are getting everything else scooped up.
Yeah, exactly. And we, obviously we have to be careful at this this juncture while we're getting, the final audit aspects completed and ready and ready to file.
All right, and their third question, which we've dealt with, seems to be a lot of folks on Canadian market for clinic rollouts. What do you do about the U.S. market? But I think you kind of addressed that, unless you want to talk about it more.
Yeah, again, it's about bandwidth. Right now, we're focusing on the opportunities in the Canadian market. Once we get a little bit of this behind us, then I will turn my attention with a bit more focus to the U.S. and opportunities there. We've got some things kind of brewing in the background, but the more immediate focus right now are the sort of key opportunities that we want to get the non-binding term sheets completed and then get through due diligence and get some closings done. So that we keep that sort of rhythm going.
Paul PP asks, oh, by the way, and Craig says, thank you, keep up the great work.
Great, thank you, Craig.
No, I think he's talking to me. Paul PP asks, question one, when are the 3 previously announced clinics opening? Any estimated dates yet?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't anticipate that they would open until probably the June timeframe anyhow, because of lease agreements, and then tenants improvements, and then the launch. So we have recruited the medical doctors already. So that part is in place. And so we have all kind of the pieces of the puzzle. We need to get the final signatures done on the 3 lease agreements, and then I will provide the addresses for the locations. Again, we're always reluctant to provide the address until we have complete certainty of the lease agreement being agreed and signed. But our timelines still look like that sort of June window. I just don't know whether it's the beginning or the end of the month.
Do you plan on being here for one of those openings, or maybe all of them?
Well, to the extent that, it's appropriate for travel with all of the
Sure.
sort of kind of lockdowns that are going, I would absolutely want to be there for, we'll call it the ribbon cutting ceremonies.
Because I think those would be great opportunities to meet shareholders.
Yeah,
Pick a location that's closest to you. We'll meet you, do some live video
yeah,
for all
you
the
bet.
people who aren't living in Ontario. But I think that'd be an amazing moment.
Yeah, we definitely would like to do that. It's these are really wonderful milestones for us, and we definitely want to celebrate that with our team members, and the patients in the community, and all the people that would be working there each and every day.
How's the lab search going in Canada?
Just still working on the opportunities. Again, it's a bit of a thin market in Canada as compared to the U.S. So we'll figure out how to solve this kind of conundrum for ourselves. Whether it's ultimately having to just do partnerships with existing labs, or if we can find an appropriate situation where we could acquire, then we'll definitely look at that. But no further updates right now.
Have any COVID test bids been placed in Canada as of yet? We know of the ones placed in the US. Must be a reason why the MDEL partnership was originally rushed.
Well, so I guess it's how we define bids, right? So, for Canada, I would say, define it as, in advanced discussions on a number of opportunities, as opposed to a U.S. government bid submission. It's kind of, the end is the same. You win business. Kind of how you go about it is different depending on the market or depending on the sector. With respect to the MDEL, we needed the MDEL to bring the Kai saliva test kits into the country. That's what the rush was for. It's a violation of Health Canada policy for us to ship, test kits into the country if we don't have the appropriate licensing. So that's why the rush for that.
And that gets the conversation going. Right.
Well, it's
you can get into the hands of potential partners or potential
customers. It's a showstopper. I mean, I can't get samples to prospects if I don't have the appropriate licensing. I certainly can't strike a deal if we don't have the appropriate licensing. So the MDEL gets us a seat at the table in Canada. We can't operate without it.
I just want to do a follow-up on that. So you said in the US there are bids because we've announced, right, some of those bids. Here it's more discussions. You said, I think that's how you framed, more discussions about it. What kind of discussions are you having? I know you can't be specific as to who or even industry, but what level of discussion are you having in some of these test discussions?
Yeah, I mean, just think of, it's really twofold. It's working with commercial clients who have a need for a saliva-based test kit for their staff, their team members, their network. Then the other type of big discussions are distribution partnerships where entities have direct access to consumers and point of sale. So, our desire is to, drive through our e-commerce store, but there's also very effective channels, and particularly, pharmacy partners, I think make for a very appropriate channel for the Kai saliva test kits. And, I would like to see them on the shelves of, big pharmacy groups across the country. And so to that end, we're pursuing that and having those conversations as a business development exercise.
By the way, I was on set with for a film and television production that is going on Amazon yesterday.
Mhm.
And I said, hey, by the way, what do you got? Because I heard one of the guys say, I've been tested up the nose so much that I don't my eyes don't tear anymore. I said, well, how would you like to know? And I told about Kai saliva, and they jumped.
Yeah.
They said, no way, it can't be accurate because they think us. I go, no, you spit, swish, cap it, send it off. And I said, please let us know when we can start ordering this because we can't take these things being shoved up our noses anymore. So
well, they can order them today, so it's no problem. And just to answer the accuracy piece, whether it's specimen collected through a nasal pharyngeal swab that nobody likes, or it's specimen collected by saliva sample, it's still an RT-PCR test through our laboratory that has, it's the gold standard. It's got the highest accuracy and specificity rates. So there's no difference in the back end testing through our lab and by our scientists. It's the method of collecting the RNA sample that is a lot less invasive.
Yeah,
and
they loved it.
And can be self-administered. On the other ones, you need a med tech to administer by rule. So.
Yeah. Nope. I just want to give you that anecdotal, from the film from an Amazon production, that they love the idea. They love the concept.
Good. Well, just, send them my phone number and email, and we'll ship them some kits.
Yeah. I already did that. I didn't give them your, but I tell them, hey, go here and you can start ordering these.
Yeah.
Paul PP says, keep up the great work, Steve. Matthias Olive Ik. I hope I pronounced that correct, Matthias. First things first, Steve, awesome work with Empower. We have had a hard time on the share price, but I really like how you handle things. Thank you very much for that. All right.
Thank you for saying, much appreciated.
All right. My question, is Empower Kai plan to acquire or develop and sell a COVID-19 rapid test on Kai tests or in retail stores? There's a lot of money lying around the street with these tests these days. Thank you and keep executing, Matt.
Yeah, so we already sell rapid tests today already. The problem with these rapid tests from kaitest.com is the rapid tests require, by rule, a med tech to administer the test. They're not self-administered at-home testing products. So it actually is not an appropriate test protocol to actually distribute on kaitest.com. We're not allowed to do that. That would be a violation.
Phys ed teacher. First of all, I just want to thank Steve and the rest of the Empower team for doing an excellent job with growing the company. You have a strong army of supporters who are strong believers in this company.
Great, thank you.
So thanks, Mr. B. Here are my questions for Steve. First, how are the Sun Valley Health Clinics performing, and are there any plans to expand them to other states? So the expansion we've already talked about, but maybe how Sun Valley Clinics performing.
Yeah, so the Sun Valley Clinics, the state of Arizona has gone through a big regulatory change and sort of metamorphosis over the last year to 18 months. And it's culminated in the fact that the state of Arizona, with respect to cannabis, has gone to full recreational. The prior core business of Sun Valley Health Clinics has been medical cannabis certifications. So we're having to address the declines in or the change in the business model for the state of Arizona. There'll be more updates to come. I can't sort of comment on where that's going to land right now, but we are looking at that very closely and looking at the impact that this regulatory environment or the change in the regulatory environment has on the long-term business model and viability of those locations.
I guess staying in lane with that, how is the hemp product side of the company performing? There hasn't been any news on it since early 2020.
Yeah, it's frankly not. It's at a complete standstill. The pandemic really shut us down, and it shut Heritage Cannabis down because we had arranged for a joint venture program for a facility in outside of Portland, Oregon. And the moment that the pandemic hit, it prevented any of us from traveling. There was no ability for us to move forward with the JV at that time. So nothing has changed, unfortunately, in that status. So at this stage, it's likely that we really won't be developing that part of the segment of the business that we thought that we would be. We really believe now that our focus on integrated healthcare really seems to be our best and appropriate path forward. Thankfully, we were not heavily invested in any equipment at that time. So we haven't incurred sort of losses per se, or we're not sitting on expensive extraction equipment or items like that. I know that Heritage Cannabis is grateful, and we're also grateful. But the pandemic had a significant impact on those plans.
Has the Kai PCR test been successful at detecting other variants of COVID-19 besides the UK and South African variant?
So the answer is yes. It does detect kind of all the types of variants that are out there. Our lab process is such that it doesn't require us to connect to the S gene, or the refer to the spike gene, in order to identify the presence of the virus, so positive versus negative. And the variants themselves actually are within the spike genes. And so our process allows us to comfortably detect the variants that are out there right now.
On to Scott Alexander. Hey, Scott, because I know Scott, I think, runs one of the Facebook groups, I believe. Has the latest order of 25,000 tests been sold yet? I remember there was talk that the next order would be for 50,000 tests. How close to placing that order are we? And once it's made, will there be talk of expanding on the quantity for a subsequent quarter, like 100K?
So I don't know about the 100K yet. I mean, obviously, a lot of this is going to be dependent on our push with the e-commerce platform and these new various distribution opportunities that we're talking about. I do have the purchase order in front of me for the 50,000 units. We're looking at lead times right now, so I don't know. I can't comment really. What that will look like in terms of when we'll pull the trigger on it, but we do have it negotiated and in front of us. And hopefully we do, because that means that we've secured new distribution deals and new orders, and we have to prepare ourselves for that demand. But it's right in front of us right now, and something I'll update everybody on probably in the fairly near future.
Are you able to quantify what kind of level your team is working on psilocybin research right now? It's clearly, understandably, not a priority right now, but do you have any team of size currently working on researching to get ahead of the game?
No, not at all. So, our role, in mental health and is really ultimately through our clinics. We had never positioned ourselves to consider, being a researcher or a so-called, pharmaceutical as it relates to anything with psychedelics. Our strength ultimately is the delivery of care through our health centers or through virtual care. So I absolutely anticipate that we will play a role in mental health going forward. But we have to continue to build out our clinic layer and our health center layer in order to play to our strengths. So, there'll be more to come on that. But, there is no activity whatsoever on research and development as it relates to psilocybin.
Update on short interest or short attacks. Are we in the same situation we were a number of weeks ago, or have we beaten through the worst of that?
I'd say that we've beaten through the worst of it for sure. the very, very unfortunate short attack that took place was quite devastating, and I had to do a lot of work in the periphery to help push back and really make sure that we could get the type of buying support that we needed. I can tell you that the short position dramatically declined. I think on the last short report that I was privy to, there was something like an 89% decline from report to report, and the reports I believe are run on a bi-weekly or bi-monthly cycle. So thankfully that seems to have sort of slowed. It's very unfortunate, and it's very unfortunate to see illegal naked shorting taking place as well. Very disappointing. I wish the regulatory body could or would do more about that in our Canadian markets. But we just had to figure out how to navigate through it. We're going to be fine. Always keep in mind that our fundamentals are very, very solid. We've got the best balance sheet that we've ever had in our history. We've got a great business plan that we're executing on.
Absolutely.
And as long as we keep doing those things, I'm quite confident that, we'll get our natural valuation increases over time.
Yeah, shorts every once in a while will scalp short-term situations.
Yeah.
But they're not going to stick around. This is just my opinion, by the way. But they're not going to stick around on a company like Empower with a powerful balance sheet, powerful business plan. They're going to take advantage sometimes of short-term situations, but they're not going to be around for long.
Yeah, I agreed.
Holger Gross, Holger from near Berlin, Germany. Hello, Mr. McCauley. If you're looking for 24 to 36 months ahead, will Empower serve markets other than Canada, the US, maybe Latin America or Europe?
It's definitely not out of the realm of possibility, for sure. We obviously have extremely large markets in North America to build our presence. If the right opportunities present themselves in other markets, then we would absolutely look at it. I think there are certain jurisdictions that probably wouldn't be appropriate, whether the regulatory environment, whether of that region in the world, also size of markets play an important role in the decisions that we make. Again, we have to balance timing. We have to balance what our capacities are. Again, not wanting to get over distracted at chasing after sort of shiny objects, particularly when we know that we've got a very large market to serve domestically. So we need to do we need to be substantially larger in our domestic markets than we are today, and we're going to stay focused primarily, to North America at this point in time.
Warren Buffett once said, "If I can't make money in America, or in your situation, North America, I certainly am not going to make it 5,000 miles away." Right. So I thought that was basically his way of saying there's a lot until you conquer the market here.
Yeah.
Don't even be looking somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah.
How will the revenue model look for the clinics in the US and Canada? Is it the classic fee for service model, or will Empower try like Oak Street Health to transform into a monthly annual subscription fee?
So, I mean, the basis is going to continue to be, fee for service and medical billing. It changes, in jurisdiction. So, Canada is different than the United States in the way that medical billing works. But fee for service and cash pay scenarios will continue to be the basis. Exploring subscription in healthcare is very interesting. And so not only in the delivery of services or a certain category of services in health centers, but also actually off of kitest.com, there is an ability and there's a likelihood that we will develop subscription-based programs there as well. I've seen some other good groups out there who are trying some interesting ideas as it relates to subscription. So I definitely think that we'll be involved in that in one form or the other. We just don't have we don't have it identified as a program right now.
Yeah, still early, but no doubt that's where the world is going, or trying to go in the long term. Heck, you have Cadillac who said they might come out with a subscription model. So I just pay $1,500 a month, and this week I could drive a sedan, next week an SUV. So subscriptions are coming into places that we never thought possibly before. Kunster has 4 questions. Only one of them we can answer because we dealt with Kai tests, we dealt with bid submissions, and we dealt with Rexall partnership and how that's going. So the one question we can ask is, through due diligence, and I like this actually, I've noticed that the job openings for Kai Lab expansion on Indeed were now closed. Does this mean all new hires have been completed and are in place or being trained?
So no, just because something might have closed down on Indeed does not mean that we've finished the hiring process. We're still doing the build out of the expansion. So we unfortunately are at capacity in the current footprint of Kai Medical. So we have a long list of roles that need to be filled. But the team are literally do not have the space to put them right now. So we have to finish this build out, but the build out is well underway. And once that's behind us, then the bigger hiring programs will take place.
All right. And CUNY says, keep executing, team power, ! So thanks for that enthusiasm. Norwich Nick Wilson. Hi guys, thank you for another Q&A. Congratulations to Yoshi, great pick. My question, would you consider a stock buyback? This stock and your hard work has quite literally changed my life. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for the comments. We're not in a position at this stage to consider a stock buyback. Although we've had nice influx of cash. You need substantially more cash than that to make the decision to do a buyback. And really at this stage, we're a growth stock. I don't think we've come anywhere near the concept of being a value stock or a dividend play where we might think strategically at a given quarter that because of our good performance, a buyback would be appropriate. So I think it's not, I'm certainly familiar with the mechanics and why you would do it. But at this stage, it's really not something that, we're considering.
Yeah, that's when you get to a mature stage, right,
Yeah,
Steve?
absolutely.
But when you're in growth mode, you want to use your cash to keep adding on jet fuel rather than.
We need the jet fuel. We need to bring on board new, fresh top line revenue. We need to convert that into free cash flow so that we can continue to reinvest. So we're definitely in that expansion investment mode and will be for quite some time.
Enter a name here. Great name. Steve, are you able to confirm if the recent repeat order, I'm sorry, is related to, and I can't say the company name, the big entertainment production company that was reported as the initial 1,000 test order in October and subsequent 9,000 test order?
I actually don't know the answer to that. I can tell you that it's still the same source. We have a couple of really good concierge testing partners, and what they do is they focus on industries, and one of our good partners focuses on film and television and does productions across the United States, primarily in Southern California and the Georgia markets. I know that these two productions are coming out of the Georgia market. Georgia is one of the hotbeds for film and television production in the U.S.
And they go on to ask, can you update us on the status of the deal pipeline? We've talked about that. And there's a question about the run rates as well, but you've said that you're going to bring out more specifics after the audit's done, and all that. So we won't dive too deep into that. There are a couple of really specific questions. So enter a name here. I might ask you to post those for Steve and the team back in Agoracom, because it's so specific that it's probably not it's probably not the place here to spend time on it. But I definitely want you to get an answer to that. So go ahead and your third question near the end, ask those last couple. Thank you to the entire Empower team. That's from enter a name here.
Great, thank you.
Back in action. In regards to DTC eligibility, what does it mean? We've dealt with that. How are things progressing with Kai tests? And what does the go live with e-commerce look like? So we've talked about that. Like this question, could you update on the progression of telemedicine platform, growth in patient use of it, and how well the Medix trial, if it has begun, is integrating into the daily clinic operations?
Okay, so there's a lot there. So telemedicine, we utilize it primarily in our clinics in Arizona, and it's been utilized for years now. So, but we have much bigger plans as it relates to telemedicine and that sort of virtual care, in conjunction with our expansions of our clinic, our health center operations. Particularly, now our focus is Canada and the Ontario market. We're actively determining what is our strategy as a company overall as it relates to telemedicine. And is that partnerships? Is it acquisitions? Is it build out? And so we're kind of in all of those phases, because I've initiated IT development project as a form of R&D to see how far that we can bring it along with our development team, while we also look at other EHR systems, or electronic health record systems. We're looking at other acquisitions, other clinic healthcare acquisitions that already have some of these components built into it. So there may be some, kind of like, double whammies that we get, where, we get health centers and we get access to patients, but we also get high quality proven tech that comes with it. So, a bit more to come, but know fundamentally that, we will have a strong position in healthcare technology. Your question about Medix Health, the pilot hasn't launched yet. We need to get the first medical centers open, but we plan to put, I believe they're putting 2 or 3 locations for the immediate pilot with Medix. So the moment that we're open, the Medix platform and technology will be up and running.
Thanks, Back in Action. Seb Lowe has an interesting question. Who picked the name Empower? Any plan on changing the name?
So Empower Clinics is historical. I didn't pick it. We inherited it. It really came about as it was the private company, or Priveco, in the Pacific Northwest, so Oregon State and Washington State, that really formed part of the RTO transaction, or the go public transaction, back in April 2018. So that's a legacy name that's there. We are definitely doing brand work. There is an argument for us to consider an overall public company name change and ticker symbol change. So we haven't made final decisions on that, but we've got brand experts really looking at that. We're also working very hard right now on determining what will our clinic or health center group be called for Canada, and if we decide on something, will we utilize that for the US as well? So we're quite far down the path on that work with our brand people. So I hope to be in a position in the not too distant future to make some announcements on that. But that's, additional work that we're doing behind the scenes, thinking about our long-term brand, our long-term culture, our long-term messaging. So it's all part of developing a large, notable public company. We have to pay attention to these things.
I think that's the big theme that's come out of today, which is those shareholders live day to day, sometimes tick to tick, tick by tick on the market. You are so far out of today, you're already working in Tomorrowland, and this went by 12 months ago this day, and you're so far ahead, right, Steve? I mean, it's just.
Well, you have to be, but it's a balance, right? We, operationally, I have to have an eye on our future. We've set our path. I think we feel very good about kind of the direction that we're going. And I think the market agrees with us, and it's been demonstrated by the response in the market. We have to build the foundation and these building blocks. At the same time, the challenge, if you're in my seat, is you have to straddle the demands of capital markets and the investment community, investment banking, raising funds for all the reasons that we do, with navigating day-to-day operations and doing our job each day operationally. So it's it's a bit of a challenge, as everybody would be aware, but that goes with my territory. The key is to make sure that we continue to surround ourselves with highly competent leaders who can that I can get out of the way of and allow them to do their job and deliver on behalf of the company and on behalf of our shareholders. And I think we're doing a pretty good job of that.
And last but not least, Orleman. So Orleman's got 4 questions, but we've dealt with cannabis. We've dealt with acquiring clinics in the U.S., institutional players in the U.S. paying attention. We've talked about that with the DTC eligibility. I don't know if you want to add anything more to that or not. I think we've dealt with it there. And so one question, any more insight into franchise of clinics? The franchising. So the franchising that you would, but that was right before COVID. And obviously exactly. No one's looking to open up a franchise when you had shutdowns and all this going on. But
exactly.
Will that continue in the future? Actually, that's a great question. When things get back to normal, are you be looking to potentially franchise out clinics in the U.S.?
Well, you got to remember that what we were endeavoring to create as a franchise was really based around the old core services of the medical cannabis certification, sort of the CBD model. Given the significant regulatory changes that has really impacted Sun Valley Health, and then the pandemic came along, it brought all of that work to a standstill. And so at this stage, until we determine ultimately what we'll do with that division, we would not put any more effort or investment into the concept of franchising until those decisions have fundamentally been made.
Absolutely. Yeah. And last but not least, his question, or their question, but Orleman, I'm assuming, is a guy. How do I get one of those Kia golf caps showed at the ANA golf tourney, ANA golf tourney? Do you know what he's referring to?
Yeah, I do. So he's referring to the Kai golf hats.
Oh, yes. I thought he was talking about, Kai golf caps. Yeah.
So we have Kai Medical has a new small sponsorship with a golfer, a pro golfer, and their caddy. And so some swag was created, like hats and golf towels and things like that. And so as part of the sponsorship, I guess it got some coverage. I hadn't seen the coverage myself, but I've seen some photos of the swag. But I'm sure we can figure out a way to make some swag available for sale at some point. But this is a new little sponsorship deal that Yoshi Tyler put together.
And it says Kia here, so I thought, was there some kind of golf tournament with cars or something? I didn't know, so my apologies on that.
It's Kai, yeah.
Yeah. Steve, that ends the questions. A lot of great questions, some really great digging there from people who've really went to detail, which was fantastic. So last word to you. I think you've covered everything, but I'm going to, they don't want me to sign off. They prefer you to sign off. So I'll leave last word to you.
Hey, the last word is gratitude. It's, I'm grateful. I'm thankful for all our shareholders and followers. We endeavor to try to respond to, all the inquiries that come in. Tamara on my team does a great job in getting out in front of the many inquiries. And, we don't mind, we love the engagement. The engagement comes with a lot of responsibility on our side, but I think that our shareholder base appreciates the type of transparency and access that we can provide. I believe it's very important in my capacity. And just, you've got our commitment that we will continue to communicate regularly and often. And everybody stay the course. This is not about, a short-term spike in price or dip in price. This is about really a long-term business strategy that will bring, tremendous shareholder value over time. But thank you to all of our shareholders.
Yeah, well said, Steve. When you got a great company, great leadership, great business, and transparency of the kind that Empower brings, both online, digitally, through videos, it's hard to argue against that. And I think everyone really appreciates that. We do. Thanks so much, Steve. Look, you took a lot of time out of your day. You're a busy guy. You got a full pipeline, and we've been on for quite a while now. So I don't got the exact time, but we've been on for a while. And for you to do that for everybody, much appreciated. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, George. Appreciate your time as well.
Thank you to everybody who participated. Usually this, I'd be telling people to do their due diligence, but this is the existing shareholders. So this is a Q&A. This will be available obviously on YouTube and everywhere for everyone to keep watching. But thanks to all the shareholders who participated, guys, because if you don't add the fuel, there's no fire. Much appreciated. Let's keep this great relationship going. Have a great day. See you next time.